Thank you. Thank you. Great honor. Please, thank you. Sit down, please. It's great to be with you. Great company and wonderful location. Quick flight. It's in and out, but we have some big things to say. Carol, I want to thank you also for doing such an incredible job at this company. I look at your numbers and I'm very jealous. A lot of people are very jealous. But I'm delighted to be back in Atlanta, Georgia. Special place. The hometown of one of the most amazing companies on earth, UPS. They never fail. The dedicated men and women of UPS are an inspiration to us all. In the face of every challenge, you always come through for your fellow citizens. Would you say that's correct? I say it's correct. Let me start by expressing my gratitude to every driver, worker, and employee who has contributed to this great success and continued to deliver for America throughout our battle against the China virus. It goes by many different names, about 21 that I can figure. We maybe will use a different one every time we hit it. But whatever it is, it was a terrible thing, and it could have been stopped, and it should have been stopped right where it started, in China. Together, we will defeat this virus and emerge stronger than ever before. We're here today to celebrate a historic breakthrough that will transform the lives of workers and families all across our nation. For decades, the single biggest obstacle to building a modern transportation system has been the mountains and mountains of bureaucratic red tape in Washington, D.C. Before I took office, reviews for highways ballooned to an average of nearly 750 pages in length, and they were the good ones. They were the short ones. And I know because I was in business for a long time, and I had to go through a process that was so ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. We went through a process for building buildings, usually. It would take forever. By the time you start building, the market changed. You said, you know, the market was good when we started. Now the market's lousy. So you say, the hell with it. We won't build. Sometimes you start building and you say, that was a mistake. But we went through years and years of litigation and tumult, and it was just not good. But you go through it to an even greater extent. The maze-like approval process represented lobbyists that were very rich. They were making a lot of money. I remember I'd go up to Albany, New York, and I'd see my lobbyists up there. I said, what are you doing here? I knew what they were doing. They were trying to make it more difficult. So you had to hire them for more and more work. Spend millions and millions of dollars for nothing. But too often they caused massive delays on top of everything else. And that way they got their fees over a longer period of time. It's one of the reasons why, for example, the average Atlanta driver spends an incredible 77 hours in traffic during a short period of time. But all of that ends today. We're doing something very dramatic. We just completed an unprecedented, and I want to say it's absolutely unprecedented, top-to-bottom overhaul, should have been done years ago, of the infrastructure approval process, this approval process that has cost trillions of dollars over the years for our country and delays like you wouldn't believe. This is a truly historic breakthrough, which means better roads, bridges, tunnels, and highways for every UPS driver and every citizen all across our land. Together, we're reclaiming America's proud heritage as a nation of builders and a nation that can get things done. Because with these horrible roadblocks that were put in front of us, you couldn't get it done. No matter how good you were, you couldn't get it done. You'd wait and wait. You'd go to the next step. You say, you can't start the next step until you finish the first. Joining us for the special occasion are Council of Environmental Quality Chairman Mary Neumeyer. Where's Mary? Mary. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Good. Secretary of Transportation, a very special woman, a great woman, somebody that has done an incredible job, Elaine Chao. Elaine. And she was very much instrumental in getting this done. And when Elaine speaks, we all listen, but she was very much instrumental. Secretary of Agriculture, a man who's done a fantastic job for our farmers and ranchers, Sonny Perdue. Sonny. I learned more about farming from Sonny Perdue than all of these consultants that came in. I learned more in a half an hour from that man right there. We had a great call today with the farmers, too. Great call. They're doing very well. A lot of good things have happened, right, Sonny? A lot of things have happened. They were targeted by China. They were targeted by others. We just signed the USMCA, which is phenomenal for our country and our farmers. Got rid of one of the worst trade deals in history, NAFTA. One of the worst trade deals ever. How anybody could have signed it, but worse, how anybody could have let it run for 25 years or whatever it was. They just took advantage of us. We had 60,000 empty plants and factories in our country by the time that mess got finished. So we just signed a great deal, USMCA. It's the largest trade deal ever made. Mexico, Canada, the largest ever made. I know Sonny would like me to thank the UPS, all of the drivers and workers, for all of the help in delivering nearly 30 million meals to rural children throughout the country for our Meals to You program. Meals to You. You know what that is? Meals to You. You do, right? We're also pleased to be joined by a great senator, somebody that's done a phenomenal job. And I can tell you, look, he's a friend of mine, so I'm a little prejudiced, but he's a man that's respected by everybody on both sides of the U.S. Senate. He works hard. He loves your state. And I always say, does David get the kind of recognition that he deserves? Because he is a very, very special man. David Perdue. Where's David? David, thank you. And a woman who's come in and done a great job, and she's been so supportive of me and the agenda. And a good person, a good woman, with a husband who's a terrific man, Senator Kelly Loeffler. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kelly. Great job, Kelly. And warriors, these are warriors. These people fought for us through thick and thin, through very, very unfair territory. We were treated terribly, and they came in, and they turned out to be tougher than the other side by a lot. And I just want to introduce Representatives Rick Allen. Rick. Thanks, Rick. The great Buddy Carter. Buddy. An incredible spokesman, an incredible man and friend, Doug Collins. Doug, thank you, Doug. Great job, Doug. Drew Ferguson. Drew, thank you very much, Drew. Jody Heiss. Jody. Thank you, Jody. Great job, Jody. And Barry Loudermilk. Barry, thank you very much. And also two people, friends of mine, they'll be there soon, in my opinion, because they have to be, because we need all the help we can get in Washington. Karen Handel. Karen, thank you very much, Karen. Thank you, Karen. And Rich McCormick. Rich, thank you. They'll be there soon, I hope. I hope. We need them. We need them. Get them in there. Thank you as well to a man who I became very good friends with, a man who was running against somebody that was unbeatable, running against a superstar. I said, oh, she's a superstar. Wow. Can you beat superstars? I don't think so. But he figured out how to beat a superstar. And I don't know, is she still a superstar, Brian? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't know. Superstars don't lose, do they? Governor Brian Kemp. I'll tell you, what a warrior he is. He's tough. He's tough, and he's done a great job, and you've done a great job in every aspect of running this incredible state, and I've always been there for you. He was saying when we met at the plane, everything we've needed in Georgia, you've been there for, and that's right. That's right. Perhaps more important than Brian, however, right? Far more important is Georgia First Lady Marty Kemp. Thank you very much, Marty. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. You're going to watch that for me because, you know, they have a lot of problems all over the country. They just had Paterson, New Jersey, where massive percentages of the vote was a fraud. Mail-in ballots. Be careful. Be careful. they would understand because they deliver. In fact, I'm going to have to be very nice to UPS. UPS, I love you, Carol, wherever you are, Carol. I love you, Carol. No, it's very bad what's going on with mail-in ballots, okay, as differentiated from absentee ballots, where you have to go and you go through a process because you can't be there for some reason. But the mail-in ballots is going to be, they're going to be rigged. They're going to be a terrible situation, and you have to be careful in Georgia, but you have to be careful everywhere where they're doing it. You know, we went through a First World War and a Second World War, and people went to vote. Now they're saying, let's use this as a chance not to vote. And there's been tremendous corruption on mail-in ballots. So absentee ballot, great. Mail-in ballot, absolutely no good. It makes no sense. A governor sends out millions of ballots all over the place. They don't know where they're going. They're going to wherever. I have a friend who got one for his daughter, another one for his daughter, and then a second one for the first daughter. They didn't know what to do with them. I had another friend, a really wonderful guy who's lost his son 7 years ago, Robert, his son Robert, and his son was sent a mail-in ballot. He called me, he said, what do I do? I just got a mail-in ballot for Robert. Robert died 7 years ago. So it's a terrible situation if they decide to use it, and we'll see what happens. There's a lot of litigation, a lot of court cases right now. And it makes sense. Just think of it. Millions of ballots. In California, they're sending out millions of ballots. They don't even know who. Maybe they know too well who they're sending them to. And maybe it's the people that don't get it. Maybe it's an area of Republicans or Democrats that don't happen to get any ballots. We've had a lot of problems. Just take a look at what's gone on over the last month. And take a look at Paterson, New Jersey. Small city in New Jersey. I think they said something like 20% of the ballots were corrupted or something happened with them. 20%. And even in the 2016 election, 1% are in question. But I don't want to talk about that one because I won, so I don't want anyone going back and looking, all right? I'm not going to talk about 2016. That was the greatest election, and now we have to do something very important. We have to keep it going, or this country will be in big, big trouble. I want to thank also for being here, Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr. You're the one, Chris. Watch that, Chris, will you? You're going to watch that, Chris, please, okay? You got to speak to the man that handles it. You know what I'm talking about. Got to do it. Thank you, Chris. It's in good hands. Superintendent Richard Woods. Richard, thank you very much. Thank you. And members of the Georgia Public Service Commission and the State Senate and House Transportation Committees. Got a lot of politicians in this room. And really, good luck to Karen and to Rich. Go out and go get them. You're great people. Today's action is part of my administration's fierce commitment to slashing the web of needless bureaucracy that is holding back our citizens. I've been wanting to do this from day one, and we started it on day one, literally on day one, but it takes a long time. You have statutory requirements. You have a lot of different roadblocks, even to changing it, but the change you'll be hearing about in a minute. And it's one of the biggest things we can be doing for our country. The last administration increased the Federal Register by 16,000 pages of job-killing regulations. Under my administration, we have cut the Federal Register by nearly 25,000 pages, more than any president in history, whether it's 4 years, 8 years, or in one case more. And we, frankly, this I would think is maybe the biggest of all. We did the U.S. Waters, you saw that, the U.S. Waters Act. That was a big one. That was a big one. I thought I was going to take a lot of heat when I did that, and instead it was just the opposite. People came up, grown men that had never cried, even when they were a baby. They were standing behind me when I signed that bill at the White House, and they were crying. They were crying because we gave their life back to them. That took their life away. It took their livelihood away. It was a big, big moment. But this is a big moment today, too, probably, possibly equally as big. Today's action completely modernizes the environmental review process under the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969. We are cutting the federal permitting timeline from a staggering 10 years, 15 years, 18 years, 21 years. You know the story. You've seen it. Projects that start out A young guy heads the project. By the time it gets approved or disapproved, in many cases disapproved, usually disapproved, he's getting ready to retire. So what did you do for your life? I worked on one project. We didn't get it through in the end. Now, we won't get certain projects through for environmental reasons. They have to be environmentally sound. But you know what? We're going to know in a year. We're going to know in a year and a half. We're not going to know in 20 years. So we're cutting the federal permitting timeline for a major project from up to 20 years or more, hard to believe, down to 2 years or less. So we have it down to about 2 years right now, Elaine, and I think 2 years or less. And our goal is 1 year. And you may get disapproved. They may vote at the end. They didn't like something environmentally or safety-wise, and I'm all for that. But you're not going to devote a lifetime to doing a project that doesn't get approved or that gets approved. And oftentimes when it gets approved, it comes in at 10, 20, 30 times the cost. There's a highway in a certain state, short road, not even a highway, I guess, more of a roadway. And they put in, it was a straight line from point to point. By the time they finished it 18 years later, it was this. It cost tens of times. It cost many, many, many times more than the original. Is a dangerous roadway because there's turns. You got to be in good shape. You got to be wide awake to make those turns. You got to see those things. You have to see the guardrails. Boom. They had a simple straight roadway. And now they build it, took 17 years to get it approved, ended up costing many, many times what the original estimates were, and it's no good. It's not good. Under the last administration, a mere 7% of reviews for federal highways were processed within 2 years. Now, what we're doing is the 2 years won't be the exception, it'll be the rule. So what we're doing is we're going to have that coming down at a much steeper rate. This will reduce approval times for highways alone by at least 70%. But the 70% is a very unambitious number because the number is going to be actually much lower than that. At the heart of the reforms is the one federal decision policy. It really spells it out when you hear that name, one federal decision. Before, applicants for infrastructure permits were forced to spend years and years navigating a labyrinth of federal agencies, and every single one had a power to stop a project. Anytime you went to an agency, they had a power to stop it, and it would stop the project, not only stop it, right in its tracks it would stop it. With our reforms, there will be one quick and fair decision. We're going to give every project a clear answer, yes or no. Yes or no. The 2-year process where just to submit is 2 years is not acceptable. It's going to be a very quick yes or no after study, but the studies are going to go quickly, and they're going to go simultaneously. So if you're in numerous agencies, you're all going at the same time. Instead of waiting for 1, for 2, for 3, and oftentimes you'd go through one, it would take you 6 months, and then you have to wait 90 days, and then you have a review period, and then you start the second one. And now you go for another 4 months, and then you wait 90 days, and you have a review period. And sometimes you had to go through 9, 10, 12 different agencies. So even if you did absolute rapid, it was many, many years before you could even think about starting it. We have up here, by the way, that's a chart of the old system and the new system. And I think the new system is better. I think it's better not only in time, I think it's better in terms of the process, and I think it's better in terms of the importance from an environmental and a safety standpoint. But take a look at that. This is what you had to go through. In fact, it was much more dramatic when I first came up with this about a year ago. We took that and we rolled it out. It was so dramatic. And it just kept going and going. So the difference is that, and many of those steps you had to wait before you could even think about going to the next one, and you had to get full approvals. Any one of those colors where there was a problem or a rejection meant it was dead. And now you go through this very simple but very comprehensive solution. And it's a beautiful thing, especially if you understand construction and building and other things beyond building like I do. At the same time, We'll maintain America's gold standard environmental protections. The United States will continue to have among the very cleanest air and cleanest water on earth, which we do now. We have the cleanest that we've ever had, meaning ever, meaning I guess in the last 40 years. I assume that 200 years ago was cleaner. I can imagine it was very clean a couple of hundred years ago, Brian, right? They'll say, that's why I'm very careful with the fake news media, because if I say that, we have the cleanest water we've ever had, they said, what about 200 years ago before anybody touched the lake? When the lake was a beautiful virgin lake, nobody ever touched it. They said, yeah, they got me on that one, don't they, huh? So now I become extremely careful. So I always so I say probably they're talking about 35, 40 years, something like that. If it's any different from that, media, we will, look at all those people back there. Any different than that, we will report to you. We will make an amendment. We'll never make a correction, because I don't like doing that. One of the first projects accelerated by these reforms will be the planned expansion of I-75 right here in Georgia. That's in honor of your wife, in honor of Marty. Okay, that's in honor of Marty. They've been looking to do that for many years, right? But the governor's going to get it done. This expansion will add 77 new lane miles of commercial vehicles, like those driven by UPS, saving drivers countless hundreds of hours a year.